Hydration.
That's how I do.
I had to get my Bravos hat on here.
You got a tat?
Whoa. No. Bravos hat.
Oh, hat.
Chop on, baby.
If you guys win tonight, you should get a Bravos tat.
Oh, well, I already have one of those.
I thought
No, you
I'm like
should
a visible one, like either your forehead or your neck.
with a date. You should timestamp it.
That's a good idea.
Where you said you were at the game the other night? Where were you? Dugout,
No,
press
no,
box,
no. I was up with
scoreboard.
From
I
that,
was in the best section.
yeah, from that video you sent, dude, I would say you were in the section that gave life.
Exactly.
Was it lower level?
We were no. It was very upper level, which is actually kind of nice because when it was raining, we had like a little bit of an overhang, and it actually kept us safe and dry. But I was up there with the Holy Polloi with 40,000 of my favorite drinking buddies. Just kidding.
It seemed like that video, man. That seemed like a really classy crowd, though.
Oh yeah,
Yeah. They were
Yeah.
keeping their distance too, which is nice.
very yeah. We keeps it classy down there. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, not
Yeah,
classy.
so we'll
like
get
this
him tonight.
place.
We'll get him.
Come on, Bravos. Let's go, Snit.
Let's go. Yeah.
That's what I wanted to. Man, we talked about this on the phone, but Snicker, man, love that guy. He's the Braves manager, small town Illinois boy, growing up.
Yeah, so how far away is Macon from Illiopolis, where he's from?
I don't know, like 30 minutes or something.
No way.
Yeah.
Was he a player back in the day? Was he like a legend in high school or anything?
That I don't know. There's an ESPN writer that wrote a book called One Shot at Forever. It's about a baseball team from Macon that
Isn't there a very famous Macon, Georgia, by the way? Is that just a coincidence?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's very famous, but there's Macon, Georgia.
I've heard that.
Mm-hmm.
I've never heard of Macon, Illinois.
now you have.
Now I have.
But this team in I don't know, probably in the 70s or something, Snicker was on it, and they got second in state, and I think it was before the class system. So it was kind of like had they won it, it kind of would have been like a baseball version of Hoosiers. But I don't think he was at least how the book read, he was not like this. He was good on that team, but he wasn't the star player of that team. But obviously he was pretty good. I think he played in the Bravos system before he was the manager.
Yeah, he was. I think he was a catcher for a little while. He's been with the Braves organization for something like 40, I think it's 46 years.
It's a good testament to the organization. Someone to stay around that long.
Yeah, so he's played in their like AAA league, some of their different farm teams, and then managed for them, coached for them, like just done just about everything. But
he looks like a normal guy. He looks like a dad.
Yep. He's just a baseball guy.
Mm-hmm.
So he just kind of has his little spot. He stands there, and
I love baseball guys. Joe Madden, seeing Dusty Baker, by the way, who was once a Cubs manager, and it's just been the first time I ever saw him was he managed an All-Star game, and he does that flipping of the toothpick in his mouth, and it always looks like you're going to ruin your palate one of these times. And he was wearing the mask, and I'm sure has the toothpick under the mask. Just a funny idea. But that guy has been like, the idea of the baseball manager is so funny. You're a fat old guy in a uniform with one leg up on the step, just kind of checking it out, leaning on that metal rail. And the announcer's like, man, this is a hard game to manage. And it doesn't look like they're doing anything. But I know it's all this, like, pitchers for tomorrow and, pinch runners and this and that. And what's it called? A double switch to get in the batting orders and stuff. I mean, it's super complex, especially in the playoffs, but they don't look remarkably like sports guys, except that they're wearing the uniform.
It does not look very taxing. I still love that. I know we've talked about it before, but that baseball managers, like of any sport, that they're the only ones that wear the team uniform.
Right.
That's so amazing.
It is.
you imagine the soccer coaches? You know how they like the UK and like the Premier Leagues, they always wear nice suits. If they were just wearing a soccer jersey with shin guards and they never played.
Like, I want to see Bill Belichick come out in some football pads. Stand there with the helmet. He's got to carry it all the time. Dude.
It's funny. Maybe it's because have you ever seen Ken Burns' documentary on baseball? It's kind of interesting, the history of baseball, but a lot of the first managers were player managers. So maybe it's just from that tradition.
What is it though that like just you can peg those guys though? Like, hey, he's obviously his playing days are behind him, but like this is a baseball guy here.
Mm-hmm.
Like what's the essence of a baseball guy?
I don't know. What would you say?
Oh, I should turn this light off behind me. Hold on one sec.
Because there's definitely a distinct look to it.
There is.
I know that people can see the bags under my eyes and sweet core coffee.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like when people look at Seabisc, they're like, that's a coffee shop guy.
Yeah, he's not a baseball guy.
Yeah.
But you have the coffee shop guy, like it's down, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the beanie, it does it. That's you work at a coffee shop.
Well, I think it's just interesting how people get into different subcultures and stuff. But I was thinking about it watching the World Series, how, these are talented, smart, charismatic guys who devote their whole lives to this game that children play. And that's another thing in the Ken Burns thing that they talk about is like, how is baseball this thing that is both the thing children play to pass the time on summer afternoons, but it also becomes like the livelihood and the obsession and vocation basically of so many grown men. There's something about the game, and that's true. There's a lot of sports like that, but baseball in particular, I think we're talking about the manager with his knee up on the step. There's something like dignified, even though it's so silly that they're playing this game and wearing this uniform. And yet it is this beautiful, like complicated, harmonious thing.
Wasn't that a few years ago, Barron gave that talk on beauty at the LA conference, and it wasn't one of the things that he cited. I can't remember the player, but it was some like old school mid-90s Oakland Raiders like defensive end or something like that, like just this huge grizzled football player. And he told the story of he was watching the game or something like that, and it must have been Madden was announcing, and they showed like a close up of this guy, and he's like, "Isn't he beautiful?" Because like
I could see John Madden saying that,
because like he is what he should be, right, in that moment.
And Madden was a coach. I'm sure he's just like, I would love to coach that guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, isn't he beautiful? But I think Barron held
his
it up
belly
as like,
hanging out.
Yeah, because what are like the objective characteristics of beauty? It's like claritas. I think there's 3 things. I can't remember what.
Integritas and consonantia.
Yeah. So you have like he is who he should be with claritas.
Mm-hmm.
It's beautiful.
I think DMAC said that beauty is it's like the manifestation of truth, whereas truth is kind of this intellectual thing. Beauty makes truth visible, which I think is a nice. So it's all based on ontology, like what you're saying. It is what it should be. Like a church is what it should be, or this dog is what it should be. That's a beautiful dog. Like what's his name, Bailey or Bingley?
It's Gable.
Gable.
I'll sick him on you. I know you're 1,000 miles away, but he will find you. Yeah, it's very true.
I've got a couple shout outs. One is my brother has been catching up on recent casts because he's walking or something or running. And he was texting me about stuff and I was like, check out the show notes. And he goes, whoa, these show notes are baller. So there may be people who are even regular listeners who have not noticed that Megan Ulrich is putting on our descriptions pretty baller notes, show notes. So thank you to Megan Ulrich for doing that, and check them out. And then the other one was at the end of the episode last time, my cool hat with the Fibonacci sequence, I said Jocelyn. And immediately when I hung up, I was like, it's Jacelyn. I haven't heard anything from anybody. So apparently all those people have stopped listening anyway. But I just wanted to say thank you, Jacelyn, for that beanie.
Your conscience is clear now.
Yeah, I've lifted it off.
Yeah.
Send it out into the universe. Let it go.
It'll get to her somehow.
That's amazing. Yes.
Hey, I've been meaning to ask you. I know this is kind of a little bit off of the sports topic, even though, look, I'll talk about grown men, standing in baseball uniforms and dugouts.
If I were the unit manager, I would definitely wear the high socks, by the way, the garter. Or what is that called? The one that like it just loops under your, like the stirrup sock.
I know what you're talking about.
That's the move.
We got this guy. Yeah. I mean, baseball it's just any of the professional sports. It is very interesting that both kids play it, and we pay grown men not just like a little bit of money to play it, like millions.
Not just a living wage. Like, we'd like you to just dedicate your life to this sport. So here we'll cover your bills and your food, lodging. Yeah, we'll make you millionaires.
I'm a big proponent, possibly even billionaires. I mean, legitimately, I'm a big proponent of Peterson talks a lot about the development of the human person based off of how we learn to interact in social situations, specifically games, that it kind of gives you rules that help you, one, to learn how to play the games in the confines of the rules, but then how to interact with other people in the context of like a team sport going on. And so there's a lot of developmental stuff that takes place, but he even talks about the spirit of the crowd, that when you get into a place of, like Truist Park, we got 40,000 people that get in there who are wild, but all love the game. And the way that like a collective spirit kind of takes over the group, so that when you hit the target, like he's obsessed with this idea that when you hit the target, it's this beautiful moment because you're doing what you're supposed to do in the spirit of the game, and everybody automatically cheers. And when you miss the target, like he goes back to the Hebrew hamartia, which is the Hebrew word for sin, that like everybody is displeased by it. But then, you hit a home run, you hit a dinger. Oh man. Like there is a spirit of goodness and delight that takes over 40,000 people before they even know what's going on, all in consonance, all rejoicing together. And so I think those sports games, there's a lot at play there, and we kind of go savagely and, rabidly cheering our teams, but it's complicated what's going on. It's very beautiful. It's a pleasure. It's a delight to be a part of it. It is.
Yeah. And it's fun too. Like, I'm thinking of the Bulls run in the 90s, how everybody would become a part of it, no matter if they didn't know what a 3-pointer was or what, like they didn't have any idea. Little kids, people who are not sports fans, like just coming and warming themselves on that energy of some people are like super obsessed and they can't even enjoy it because they're just too like caught in the weeds of the details of like every call. I remember this guy Trent Schmidt at Mundelein was on 3 North, and he was a huge K-State fan, and every March Madness it was just like, dude, I don't think you like college basketball. You're never happy when you're watching it, but you're obsessed. And then there's the people who come in and they're like, hey, did they kick a touchdown? Which ones are the Bears? And they could like, it just is this crowd. What was the word you used? The crowd mentality, or?
I don't know. What did I say?
I forget.
The spirit of the whole or something like that.
Yeah, spirit of the crowd or something like that, where you can feel like in the Braves game the other night, it's getting later innings. It's, if this guy gets a hit, there's 2 guys on in running, scoring position. And if he gets like everybody kind of has a sense that, boy, even like a pop out on a sac fly, like he just needs to get it into the outfield, or it becomes like this huge game of anticipation where 40,000 people plus everybody on TV and everybody at the bars is just like, if this guy gets this, then we go up and then we're probably going to win. And then if he strikes out, it's just like this, all the air goes out of the place. But if he does get it, like everybody together is like, yeah. And that, I don't know what that is, but that's probably why we pay all these guys money. It's for those moments.
Yeah, I think so.
You know?
Yeah.
What do you got starting there, Rob?
Well, it's very, very tangential, but it's just something that I just watched yesterday that like freaked me out very much, because there's something to that, the spirit of the crowd type thing. But did you guys watch any of this stuff? And I don't even understand it, but like apparently Facebook is like metaverse now or something like that. Did you guys watch that?
I saw some headline. They switched their name, but it's still called Facebook though, right? It's just
I have no idea. I have no idea.
I read that as like Google is technically called Alphabet, but nobody calls it that.
Okay.
What is that? I don't know what any of that means.
Well, there was this.
Just stay with us, Mike.
Apparently,
I'm just kidding.
There was like a keynote by who's the CEO of Facebook? Zuckerberg. And yeah, he I watched like 3 minutes of it, but he was just kind of openly talking about how this is the start of the shift for the internet to be like totally immersive, so that like human connections can deepen through it. And so it reminded me of, you guys seen the movie Ready Player One? You guys know that movie?
No, yes, this is the second time in a couple of weeks I've heard it referenced, though. I should watch it.
Yeah, it was. I mean, the 3 minutes of the keynote thing that I watched, it reminded me of Ready Player One. Of like, that's kind of what they're going for. Of like, you can create this thing and kind of live in this world and go hang out with your friends in this immersive experience. And so it's interesting because that honestly just seems repugnant to me. But I'm also like really worried that they're already so far in my brain that I'll eventually just like have to go into the metaverse or whatever that means. Anyway, I don't want to spiral here, but it, like the spirit of the crowd thing, there's something that I think there's like this danger to it a little bit of like, it has to, I don't know, it has to be real, like I want to do that in person. I do not want to evoke that spirit sitting with goggles on, cheering.
I see what you mean. I thought you were saying that the spirit of the crowd can also get a little bit rowdy, and we can like cheer mentality. For the madness of crowds. Yeah. But you're talking about, and I even want the experience to be at least together, personal with other people.
Yeah. Because I think that's the argument. I think that's what's coming of like, no, we can create this like just by being together virtually. Like you can have the human connection that you crave by going to hang out with these people in your goggles because it's so immersive.
I'll see you in the goggles.
Yeah.
Hey, you want to hang out in my goggles?
Yeah.
No, but it's real, dude.
I can't see it. I mean, we have so much trouble just every week with the Wi-Fi getting this video conference to happen. Like, how is everybody going to have such good Wi-Fi that they can all just hang out in the goggles?
I don't
get it,
dude. All you have to have is Wi-Fi and good Wi-Fi in one room.
Yeah, it's true.
And then you don't have to go anywhere. That's the whole point.
Right.
I'm just saying, it's like, and I'm sure there's a lot of things to be worked out for like their vision for it. But 20 years ago, if you were like, described like FaceTime and Zoom and like all this stuff to people, you'd be like, oh, no way, like no way would we spend 4 hours a day or whatever looking at a screen.
Yeah.
And I remember that are
occurring to me in seminary, how we're all day on our computers. And when I was a kid, people who did that were nerds. Like, look at that guy with his computer. What a nerd. Now every person, cool, nerdy, or otherwise, is always on a computer.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like us right now.
Yeah, I love that.
This is so cool.
We say that as we're on computer. No, yeah, it's true, man. When I first saw that movie Ready Player One, which it's actually like kind of a fun, cool movie. I'd like it. There's a lot of homages to like little video games back in the 80s and 90s, and I think it was written as a book first and meant to be nostalgic. Yeah, kind of entering into the video game era, but people in the movie, they live their normal lives like in real life so that they can actually live in their video game world. Like their video game avatar is more important than their person. And so the entirety of their time and resources are all consumed in video game land on the internet, or I don't know exactly what it's called. And it seems like that's actually, that's kind of the direction that we're plugging along. That people's internet avatars, they're seen by more people and in a lot of ways become more valuable than actual relationships and interactions and even ourselves. Like, yeah, which is a wild thought process, but I could see it definitely happening. The Ready Player One thing. I don't know if we want to go all the way down this road, but
well, I will say
I'm tracking you, Rob.
Yeah,
I think we've been to this point before where actually it's funny because with sports I'm usually the pessimist and Rob, you're the optimist, but with technology it's the opposite. I think so. I've never seen Ready Player One, but I watched the other night. I watched 2 AI future movies this past week: Blade Runner and Chappie. You ever seen either of those?
Blade Runner. I saw Blade Runner.
It's classic. It's 1980s. The future date it's set in is 2019, which is funny.
You didn't see the remake?
No, but now I want to because I did enjoy the. It's like anything in the 80s. You think this? How did everybody think that this was so exciting? Even Star Wars got Don't email me, but it's not the gripping kind of like super actiony driving thing that you kind of expect now, which I imagine the remake of Blade Runner is probably faster and more eye candy. But it's that kind of this dingy, the way the 80s imagined the 20s, the 2019s is like this gross, rainy, it's raining the entire time. It's dark all the time. The cities are just jammed and overpopulated. And everybody is, a robot or, he's trying to hunt robots or whatever. And it's just this pessimistic kind of dystopian future where AI has advanced so far that you can't distinguish between humans and robots. And they're embodied. They have skin and organs and bleed and all this stuff. It's like the idea of what they thought we would go to is so different. Both the environment, like there were no hipsters raising bees in Blade Runner. They just figured, all humans are just going to become completely like, ingrained in the matrix basically. And here we are in 2021 and it's not ideal. Like we are kind of addicted to our phones, but we all realize that and are kind of fighting against it. And the cities are not overpopulated. And
we still have bees.
And we still have bees, thank God. So, and then Chappie was funny because it's basically a computer nerd who writes a program called consciousness.dat and uploads it into a police robot and he becomes a person basically. It's so bad. I preached about it on Sunday because he's like, he interacts with his maker, So what does it mean to love God? your creator. He's
like it.
Yeah. But I guess I'm just optimistic. Like, as much as we can imagine, oh my gosh, we're all gonna, if Zuckerberg really accomplishes this thing, then we're all gonna be trapped. Like, we're still free, and human beings at some point will say no mas.
No, I think it's true to some extent, but like I have no idea what's going to happen, but there's a lot of damage that's done, and especially like, I'm not going to get on like the preachy train about tech, but like it warps people's brains, especially young people, and like we're a little bit outside of it. Bear in mind, like we're not exactly. We grew up in a different generation. We're old, dude.
Yeah.
And so even what's coming through right now is, I mean, it is handled a little bit differently, and I think even more immersive than what we had growing up. Well, for sure, more than what we had growing up. But yeah, there's a lot of advantages to it. But here, I got a question. Maybe this will direct the combo. I know we only got a little bit longer, but Rob, why do you think the group, that crowd experience, why do you think it does have to be real? Like, why don't you think that a technological connection with a group, why don't you think that's sufficient?
I don't know. I don't have a word, and maybe that's like the fear that is coming out in the pessimism of like, I do think that is in a lot of ways like probably sufficient to continue to go to. So there's this like reaction in me of like, oh man, I don't want that. And so, because I think that could be just like very, very enticing, in a lot of ways. And so, I mean, I think you could look at it in much like, different ways, but take when we were out in Santa Barbara, like in May or something. Was that May? Yeah. And I remember thinking then of like the fruit of that whole kind of retreat time out there was just honestly like super fun, like meals and kind of just getting to be around Baron, which is awesome as always, but just like hanging out with you guys. And so there's something different, which this is such an obvious point, but like there's just something different about that than even being able to like chat once a week and like see each other like this, which is a huge grace. It's just not the same thing. But I mean, I think that's true. Like had, like having this type of access, as great as it is the drawback is like, we probably don't work as hard to see each other in person.
Yeah.
And so you take that as like a microcosm then of, I think, like what can happen, or like what, like I just see in myself, honestly, there, that it becomes easier. I mean, think of so many realms, like, someone, like man, it's way easier to like, just to FaceTime like this person in the nursing home as instead of like taking an afternoon to go and see them and like be with them.
Yeah.
And so it's like, it's all those little things that the accumulation of, it's like, wow, that is actually way less human. So that's kind of what I was getting at there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Coupled with the feeling like, no, I think this is sufficient. It's
right.
Yeah. Yeah. Like it actually does kind of satisfy, but it's not the same thing. And we can get used to lesser goods pretty dang quickly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's always mixed in of like, it is better than nothing, which is true. That's kind of like part of the enticement, is the truth that is there.
I noticed a lot of, me and Tim were watching some show on Hulu for a little bit, and a lot of the the advertisements were for like delivery services, you know, and it was just so clear that the people they were advertising to were those who like work from home, did everything at home, you know, were trying not to go out, and were probably single, didn't have dependents, and they just like could eat carry out every night, and you know, they had enough income. And it just was like the picture of the person that it painted in my head that they are picturing, which maybe is somewhat me. Like I do eat out a lot because I don't like to cook, um, but I need to get out of my house. You know, like it was just so. I had such an aversion imagining their target demographic, which is like tech or, you know, businessy kind of thing where you can basically meet everybody that you work with virtually. You don't have to live in the same city as your company. You're just on your computer all day. Then you can, and then you know, the whole good screen, bad screen, you know, like I go to work all day and stare at my bad screen so I can go home and look at my good screen. Um, that I don't want that. Um,
I
that
don't want
said,
that.
I do go to good screen a lot. And since retreat, I've been, one of the things that's helped me a lot is, I mean, honestly, relational prayer, ARRR, that whole IPF thing. Um, if you, it's interesting because the relationship is kind of chicken or egg, you know, relating to God in a truly relational way, and not kind of a box checking way, helps you relate to other human beings in a more relational way, a more human way, and vice versa. You know, the more you are relating to human beings and being like actually loved and loving in an embodied and human way, where you're spending time with people and actually knowing them, attending to them, the more you can do so with God. And it's not just like I'm treating God like this thing I need to either appease and do something for, like I need to say my prayers, I need to read my breviary or whatever, or like a therapeutic kind of dopamine button like Netflix or Facebook or whatever, where I just go to him because I'm not feeling good and I'm like, okay, maybe I need to say a rosary to calm myself down or something. But rather actually opening up into the vulnerability of relationship, um, which does, like going to the nursing home and seeing somebody and actually spending time with them is a more human thing, but it's a more risky thing because maybe you'll be bored and maybe you'll get hungry and the food at the nursing home sucks, and you're like you're just like way more exposed than if you're at your home in your little hermetically sealed thing with your Instacart and your Hulu and everything you need to always have your stuff the way you like it.
And it all, yeah, that's a good way to put it. Because it just simply requires giving something else up to do it. So there's like, I don't know. I mean, there is at some level, there's like a confrontation with contingency there too, as well as like, no, I have this much time to like have this many relationships with this many people, like in person, and to go and see this person, it will cost me a whole afternoon of not returning emails and not, you know, watching this sick 1980s movie.
Right.
Dude, sick.
Yeah. Awesome.
Dude, that's the best way to describe a 1980s movie. It was sick, dude.
I think it's radical.
It was turbulent.
Dang it.
It's tubular. Yeah, no, it's true. Yeah, you just can't do everything. And maybe that's a part of what adds to the enticement of technology is it does give a facade that we're capable of handling more than we actually are. It's like even the way we internalize information and take in news, like I'm not actually capable of understanding the torrent of information that's zinging at me. In the same way, like I can't interact with 1,000 people at once. That's just not real.
Right.
That I can barely take in you two for like 30 minutes. You know, it's like I gotta be totally zoned in for that.
I'm exhausted.
And even still, like you could be face to face with somebody and you could still not have like you're saying, a deeply authentic relational interaction there. Like even there's ways, even face to face, that it's tough. And so to be totally invested in with one person, I think that's a pretty dang big task in and of itself, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So to say like, no, I have 1,000 friends. That's so many people.
Yeah.
You had 40,000 friends at the game, though.
Close.
That's the thing with the crowd thing too, as well, because I think we do have this infinite desire to relate, and we want to be that unity. It can be disordered with the mob mentality, but I think in the ordered cosmic way, where in the restored creation in the heavenly kingdom, there will be a univocity of like everybody. That's got to be some kind of foreshadowing of what heaven is like. That moment where it's just like he hits the grand slam, and that's what we needed. Miguel Montero against the Giants, 2016. Just like that moment. That's why you play baseball for 162 games.
Absolutely. And the thing, it's like it was Anselm where he's gripped by something else. And it's like that crowd is something takes a hold of the crowd.
Yeah.
It's not like the crowd like gets together like, okay, this is our plan. Okay, we're gonna when
it
he
has to
hits
be
it, we're all
surprising.
just gonna go nuts. No, it's like something takes over the group, and thanks be to God. In this case, it was like a spirit of goodness and rejoicing in the success of another. But there's something objectively happening from the outside to us, you know, and so like gripped by the spirit of love. I think that's the Holy Spirit that through Christ aims us to the Father. And if that's not a vision of like the heavenly Jerusalem, everybody being caught up in the goodness and the beauty and the truth of what we're all perceiving and taking in, gripped by the spirit of love that directs our praise, that's meant to be the Mass as well. Yeah. Way less beer drinking at Mass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That helps the sobriety of the spirit.
Yep.
Literally and figuratively. All right, it's 7:30. We had this hard out, and it seems like the Wi-Fi's getting slow. All right, dudes. Have a good day.
Next
good
week.
Chat. See you next week.